Hi everyone, this is Neel Raithatha, also known as the Wax Whisperer. Thank you for joining me in my latest video. We have here a patient who attended with bilateral, occluding and impacted soft earwax and dead skin. And I'm just commencing with their left ear first. The patient felt the left ear to be the worst ear of the two, or at least they're experiencing the majority of the symptoms in this ear, but it was actual fact their right ear that had a lot more occluding wax and was a bit more difficult to remove. So do stay tuned and you'll see that. So when you've got soft wax and dead skin like this, it can become quite mushy and it can block the inside of the suction probe. You may have just witnessed me there, and once again, just giving the suction tube a little wriggle just to help the wax and soft skin travel up there. And I think in a moment I'm going to install some olive oil spray. As you can see, it is blocking up the tube quite a lot. So this patient has to attend every 8 months or so, and they just get a really high turnover of dead skin. So the skin that lines the ear canal in this patient, it's dying, replacing and shedding itself at a quicker rate than most people, which leads to a natural buildup of dead skin, which then amalgamates with natural oils and sweat secreted within the ear, and they're the three ingredients that create earwax. So you get dead skin cells, you get sebum, which is a oily lipid secretion, so the same secretion we find on our scalp. So it's the sebaceous glands that secrete sebum attached to the hair follicles, and then you get an oily sweat secreted by modified apocrine glands, which are the sweat glands found under our armpits. And so the three ingredients blend and amalgamate to form earwax, and this patient is just developing a lot of exfoliated skin cells, which is then combining with the rest of the ingredients to form earwax. So they do have to have their ears cleaned regularly. They have got quite a bendy ear canal as well, which doesn't help for the natural migration of earwax. And you can just see it right on screen, that white patch on the posterior canal wall. That's just another piece of skin that's undergoing through what we call the cornification process. So the skin that lines the outer part of the ear canal, the epidermis, it has 5 layers, and at the basal germination layer, that's where these skin cells replicate themselves. So you get a skin cell that undergoes mitosis, and it replicates itself and it creates a daughter cell. And that daughter cell then pushes the adult cell upwards onto the next layer, and it goes up 5 steps. And when you're at the outermost layer called the corneum strata, at that layer, the skin begins to die and begins to shed. And that white patch you just saw on the patient's right hand side of the ear canal, it's undergoing that process where it's finally pushed to the outermost part of the ear canal, the outermost surface of the epidermis. As I said, it's got 5 layers, and at that stage, it's too far away to receive all the blood supply and nutrients that it requires to sustain itself. And at that stage, the skin cell undergoes self-destruction, and we call it cornification, and it fills with keratin, and finally that skin will migrate sideways out of the ear, or it should do, like a conveyor belt, so the ear cleanses itself of any dead skin that it accumulates and exfoliates. So the left ear is clear, just going to do the right side. So similarly, when you've got a lot of dead skin content, it can become quite mushy sometimes. In addition to this mushy consistency, you'll see it at the end of the procedure, the patient had some crusted dead skin, so it's become a bit firm and it's crusted on the, in this particular ear, it was on the front bottom part of the ear canal. And I wanted just to remove that because that's how some conditions in the ear, like a very rare canal cholesteatoma, can occur. You can get a slowing down of, or a crusting of dead skin on the surface of the ear canal and the skin. And if that skin can't naturally migrate and it embeds itself on the outer layer of skin, as it dies and decays, it releases proteolytic enzymes that release acids and fatty biles that are also secreted by the decaying dead skin, causes an ulceration of the skin that's lining the canal wall. So that skin dies and it breaches, and then you expose the bone underneath, and then you can get dead skin collecting within that ulceration. It's almost like a pothole. And then you can get dead skin that invades that space and collects there, and then it can cause an infection of the bone and the sheath that surrounds the bone, the periosteoitis. And when you've got periosteoitis, the bone, the temporal bone, which makes up the ear canal, the inner 2/3 at least, the outer third is made up of cartilage, that's deprived of the blood supply and nutrients that it needs, and that bone undergoes a process of necrosis, so decaying, until it can finally separate. When bone separates from itself, we call it that sequestrium, and we call that canal cholesteatoma, that condition. And you see at the bottom here, there's just a bit of crusted dead skin, and you never know what you're going to find. And I had one today that of a patient who has got a canal cholesteatoma. I'm going to try and upload that tomorrow. Now, their ear was a lot more inflamed, and there was a bit more evidence of an infection there. So there isn't any canal cholesteatoma in this case. But similarly with the other patient, it was this part of the ear canal, the anterior inferior. So this is the front part of the ear canal near the bottom. Now, a canal cholesteatoma can happen inferiorly to the base of the ear canal and also posteriorly. Very rarely does it happen at the top of the ear canal. But when I removed it, it just looked like this patient that I saw today. There's a bit of skin here, and I peeled it away, and then it revealed a big crater. They had a very narrow ear. It was a quite complex procedure, and I do believe they've got a canal cholesteatoma there, so we've referred them onwards to see an ENT specialist to undergo a CT scan, further treatment, possible surgery. So the skin is slightly ulcerated here, and it is slightly inflamed around the edges, but there's no exposed bone. So I have just advised the patient that we've written to the GP, just may need some anti-inflammatories there, plus some antibiotics just in case there's any bacteria, but there's just a bit of inflamed skin around there, but the bone's intact, the epithelial layer is intact, it's not been breached, no ulceration. Trying to just peel this away, it's not going to come away. I'm going to leave that as we're getting some clarinetting as well. Again, I just want to make sure there's nothing there, which there isn't. You can see a bit of the skin's puffed up there, so that's in the process of dying and migrating. Just using the Jobson horn just to clean the entrance with some sticky soft wax and keratin. So that plug of soft dead skin's removed. That crusted section on the front part of the ear canal, that's been removed. Eardrum slightly bulged, so they have been blowing their nose, and so it's when I say bulge, it's inflated. It's like you blow up a balloon. You can force air up the middle ear via the nose when you blow your nose sometimes. Well, I hope you enjoyed that video, guys. Take care, keep well, and speak soon. Bye.